Welcome everybody, Submission Fishing Live. I'm your host Muto. Glad you could join us. Glad to be back. Sorry, improvising here in the new location. How's everybody doing tonight? Happy Thursday, 4th of July weekend. So long weekend for a lot of you guys. I know we're closing up for a few days, and it's gonna be crazy out there. So if you do go fishing, stay safe and yeah, watch that traffic. Anyways, guys, we got a good show for you today. We're going to talk about recent trip I went on the Pacific Queen. The Bluefin are back. We got some good questions from Instagram and stuff like that about fishing bluefin and everything. We got a big announcement for you guys um, regarding some trips and stuff like that. I know a lot of you guys were asking that stuff. We got the news, everything else and all the usual stuff. If you have questions, I got some Instagram questions we'll answer. Obviously, ask them in the live chat if you've got them. Be happy to answer them for you. So let's go ahead and get started. See who we got in the house today. Cave Dog Oos, number one. Cal, what's going on? Welcome. Fishing Reps. Kevin, the man with the plan on the road trip. How you doing, Kevin? Glad you could join us. Spinning Rod Rebel Marvin, glad to see you. Captain Dan Oos, greetings from Red Bull Motocross in Michigan. Captain Dan, hope you're safe. Man, we got what do you call that? Not international, I guess just be the national crew. Captain Dan in Michigan. I think Kevin's out in Texas. Good stuff. Graham Oos, welcome to the show. Yeah, Granbury, Texas. That's right, man. Cody King, Oos, hope everybody's doing well. Cody, welcome to the show. Great fishing with you over last week. Super cool. Let's see. Michael Tran, Oos, welcome to the show. Yeah, should be in Jacksonville by the 8th. Let's see. Michael Tran. Anyone signed up for the submission at sea? They were if they got the email. Yeah, you're going to spoil the big announcement. Pohukai Oos, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Leonard, what's going on, man? Welcome. Andreas, welcome. Sammy, Benji, Tom Cod, aka Butterknife Moreno, welcome to the show. Paige D. Niger, Paige, the white bass slaying machine, bait casting, fishing phenom, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Thanks, man. GP, glad you could join us. Welcome. Really appreciate it. SoCal Steve, Yellowtail shootout sucked. Lots of fun, but weather was horrible. Yeah, we were out. Let me bring up my notes. Sorry, guys, I've only got my tablet here, so I'm trying to work with things. My people asked a new studio. This is actually just my garage that I kind of set up for a studio, so it seems to work. I'm doing some work on my office upstairs, so basically it's gutted. Everything's been cleaned up, so I'm pretty much just working out of the garage here. So all I have is a tablet. Usually I've got like 2 screens, 3 screens. I got everything to look at, so we're making it work. So if you see some extra clicking, don't be alarmed. But yeah, anyways, let's go over some news before we get into some of these things. One thing in the news, if you guys have friends that want to go fish or kids that want to go fish, this weekend is actually one of the few weeks where you can actually, or few days. So it's just the first. July 1st is one of the few days this year that you can actually fish for free. You don't need a fishing license. You don't need to be on a pier. You can go fish anywhere. So I think we have 2, maybe 3 days a year that California allows you to fish. So this Saturday is one of them. So if you want to take somebody out and they don't have a fishing license, it's okay. Saturday is one of the few exceptions where California has graced us with their benevolent laws that allows us to fish without a license. So most of you guys have licenses. I don't think it affects us so much, but if you have somebody that's interested in fishing, um, get them out there. Or if you're taking them out on the boat, it's cool. You don't have to worry about, buying a whole bunch of licenses and stuff like that. So, um, that's always a good thing. Another thing I wanted to bring to your guys' attention, unfortunately, we got some more, BS in the pipeline here. So I got this email, and then I know Captain Dan sent this one to me too. But let me see if I can find it here. The California has proposed basically a 300% increase in boat registrations. So that's something that we can still fight. I know some of you guys are boat owners, or even if you're not a boat owner, um, consider signing this thing, the petition. I'll put the um, link here in the chat. And there hasn't been, I guess, an increase in a couple years on the boat registration, but now they're trying to increase it by 300%. And there's some good articles about it, stuff that I was reading. Some of the things you got to think about are, they think, a lot of people pass this legislation and stuff because they think they're taxing mega yachts and stuff like that. But when you really look at some of the statistics that I was looking at in some of these articles, that most boat owners make less than 70K a year. A lot of it's just the people that like to fish, and they're not exactly millionaires and multimillionaires like they think. Everybody's boating. You guys see it. I mean, I see plenty of people in older trucks and older boats, just out there because they love to fish. And this is just something that they're trying to push down us again. Just a 300% increase, which is absolutely crazy. One of those things that wasn't really talked about a lot. Gavin Newsom just kind of pulled this proposal out of his ass like last week. So something to fight for, guys. If you do have a boat, even if you don't have a boat, but you want to get one sometime, maybe in the future, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you want to go get a boat. Well, this is something you're going to have to contend with now. There's already property taxes on boats. And one of the biggest kicks in the balls really is that a lot of the funding, from my understanding, doesn't go to any boating. So like fuel, for example, there's already like a fuel surcharge, like when you go to fuel docks and stuff, when you're fueling up your boat. But a lot of that goes to boating related things. Like when we buy a fishing license, right? It goes to game wardens, or it somewhat goes to the fishery. The problem with this kind of proposal is that, like, none of this money goes back into boating rights or docks or slips. It doesn't really affect boating at all. So they just want to tax everybody an extra 300%. That money that doesn't get allocated back into the boating thing. Where typically your car registration, it funds DMV and all these other things, but it looks like that's not really the case. So if you guys have the means or the time, sign that petition, reach out to people. Even if you're not a current boat owner, you may be someday, but this also affects people taking you out on boats and affording to boat in general. So there's one more piece of BS we got to deal with in California, but we can still fight. I don't think anything's been put into law so far, but it just sucks, man. We just can't get away from this nonsense. It's crazy. So now we got the bad news out of the way. Let's just move on. I don't want to talk about it. As a boater, it's crazy because there's like you guys don't know, there's like there's a property tax on boats too. So it's like you get hit with they just think like, oh, people own boats. I think realistically, what they want is they want the money from like the big yachts and stuff like that, right? Like the multi-million-dollar yachts. But most of those boats aren't registered in California anyways. People get them registered in like the Cook Islands, and that's why you see a lot of flags and international flags on the real big expensive boats, because they don't register them here in California or America. They do them in landings in different islands and countries that don't have taxes and fees and stuff like that. That's where like the Cook Islands is like a real popular place because it's almost next to nothing to register a boat. So all these people own these mega yachts and boats are registered to these different little colonies and stuff like that. They're not even, so people like that own these billion-dollar mega yachts, they're not even going to be taxed under this stuff. It's people like myself, like Brian, like Eric, a lot of us that just have these smaller boats that just love to fish are going to end up paying the bill for these things. So it kind of sucks. Puhukai Oos, welcome to the show. Sammy, welcome. Don't know if I got you. SoCal Steve, welcome to the show. Yochinator Oos, welcome. Glad you could join us. I pay that tax every year, almost $400. Yeah, exactly. You pay the it's not even a tax, it's the property tax one, right? Like, so they claim it's not even the registration, guys. There's like the registration, then they say there's like a property tax, but now they want to raise the actual registration like 300%. It's crazy. Ooh, Salty, welcome to the show. Yeah, mine was like, my property tax just on the boat was like, it was more than, it was probably like $600 or something. That's just every year, just to own a boat. That's the luxury we get here in California. Freaking nuts, man. Anyways, enough of that downer. Let's see. What else in the news? Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is actually kind of a funny story. Let's see, maybe I can share it, and I'll put the link in there too. But this was kind of nuts. The I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a fishing crew was denied $3.5 million prize for a 619-pound marlin that was bitten by a shark. Um, which is just seems absolutely crazy. So this was in June 20th. Members of a competitive fishing team, they're filing a protest after their enormous catch was disqualified from a tournament in North Carolina because of a shark bite. The team, called the Sensation, it competed alongside more than two groups in the Big Rock Blue Marlin tournament on Sunday, and their catch, a blue marlin weighing 619 pounds, would have won prize money totaling $3.5 million. Did you guys know that there was prize money like $3.5 million on these tournaments? I had no clue. Like, that's insane. Sensation Crew would have received 2.77 million for taking first place, and another 739,000 for catching the first fish of the year that weighed more than 500 pounds. CBS Sports reported, but the crew did not win the tournament, nor did team members receive any reward money despite the blue marlin size. Tournament officials said the marlin could not be considered eligible because it appeared that a shark had taken a bite out of the fish before it was caught. After careful deliberation and discussion between the Big Rock Rules Committee, Board of Directors, and biologists for both North Carolina State, CMAST, and NC Marine Fisheries biologists, as well as the IGFA officials, it was determined that Sensation's 619-pound bluefin was disqualified due to mutilation caused by a shark and other marine animals. Tournament officials said in a statement. Like, that's crazy. $3.5 million lost because you got bit by a shark. What I don't understand, or what is not really clear, is I don't know if it was. What do you guys think about this? I don't know if it was. It sounds like it's 619 pounds after the shark bite or after the shark attack. So I was thinking like they caught it, weighed it, and then it was bit by a shark. But I don't know why it wouldn't count. Like, if the shark bit it and it still weighed that, like, the weight's the weight. Wouldn't it be a disadvantage to have the shark bite because it took away weight from the thing? But for whatever reason, disqualified. I mean, I'd be pissed about that. That's just nuts. That's a lot of money. We're not talking a $300 little prize for catching bass. Millions of dollars lost because of a shark bite. I mean, that was freaking crazy. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but that's big stakes. I don't think, I mean, I know fishing, like the bass world and stuff, there's lots of money be involved. People make, hundreds of thousands of dollars and stuff, even millions of dollars on multiple tournaments. But I've never seen a tournament that $3 million in one shot. My uncle and my grandfather actually, they won the Black and Blue Marlin tournament in like the 90s down in Mexico, and they won like $150,000 like way back in the 90s. So I know there's lots of money, but that's just crazy. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just tampering with the fish or probably some sort of legality. I would imagine, like people cutting fish and throwing weights in it or something. They probably just can't take anything, that's been mutilated or tampered with. Oh, here we go. That's some good. The shark may have killed it. Oh, see, I knew Brian would have some insight on this. The shark may have killed it and made it easier for them to land. Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. The shark could have. Okay, you guys are all on the same page. I didn't even think about that. That's why we got the live chat. We got the big brains in here. The shark could have helped kill the fish, and then the team land the fish. Okay. Find a floating marlin, free win. Oh, see. That makes sense, guys. That makes sense. That's something I never really even thought of. Yeah, fishing up saying they upheld that rule. Man, could you imagine losing $3 million because a shark bit your junk? Yeah, Jessica knows. See, my wife, she's way up on the fishing legalities here. Somebody else said Graham disqualified because of mutilation. IGF rule. Yeah, it still sucks. I mean, it is what it is. It's just, that's crazy. Yeah, three. Just imagine that. $3 million to catch a fish. $3 million that you lost because of a shark bite, man. That's Freaking nuts, dude. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting story. Bring it to your guys' attention. Let's see. I think that's all I had news wise. If you guys have anything else, let me know. I didn't really see anything else of interest. Let's see. Just checking my notes. 50 pound. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm back. Sorry, guys, I missed last week. You know what? For some reason, I didn't even think about like. For some reason, I knew I had a trip. I went on the Pacific Queen with Corey King and Cody King. They're in here. Shout out to them. I sponsored their trip. Um, did a submission fishing sponsorship, and we went out bluefin fishing. For some reason, I thought like I was gonna be back by Thursday, and then I was on the boat Thursday, and I was like, I sent a text to my wife. I'm like, "Will you send something out to like let everybody know I'm on the boat Thursday?" And I'm like, "That's right, I'm not gonna be home." I don't know why I thought it was like Tuesday through Thursday or something like that, but it ended up going longer. Um, so we went on a bluefin trip, and man, it was lots of fun. It was a little bit of a grind. I think we caught like I don't think we hit limits. It was like 30 something people, and I think we caught like 20 bluefin or something like that. There was actually some yellowfin mixed in there too. But since then, I mean, the bluefin's been freaking crazy. I think we were because the days before us were like really, really bad, and then we did pretty well. Um, Gavin on the Pacific Queen, obviously, he's runs Captain Concepts. I think what's his name, Matt from the San Diego. They do it, so he's a good captain. You know, he knows his stuff. He knows how to find them. So he got us on there. And I was looking at some of their numbers today, but he went on a 3 day and they got like limits every day. So 2 fish per person. I think they had 30 people with like 90 fish or something. But yeah, we got on them. It was really good. I got probably like a 90 pounder on the ogre six. I think it was a five or 600 gram ogre. So I got one at night. I was pretty lucky. The fishing during the day, it was kind of spotty. It was mostly the live bait bite. Jigs weren't really happening mostly throughout the day unless they're foaming and stuff. It's kind of hard to get them. I have seen them be caught, you know, on jigs during the day, but I think there was one. I think Gavin, the captain, hooked one, but live bait's usually the way to go. When night came around, it was interesting. So the first night we went out, we got out really too late to fish, and then the second night, and it was interesting. It was kind of getting late, and we were already pushing into. I I think like 9:30. Sundown already came. We already missed 7. We already missed 8. The boat hadn't stopped. We hadn't seen any tuna, but then it seemed like it was later, about 9:30 or 10. Um, Finally, we were able to get on them, and it was typical bluefin fishing, where they'd find a school, we'd drop down, 2 or 3 people would get bit, we'd wait for them to reel up, then we'd go find them again. But we found them pretty often throughout the night until about I think 1 in the morning. We called it quits and headed back. But yeah, it was good stuff. Yochinator, Gavin's best. Yeah, dude knows he knows how to find fish. He's really good at just like packing up and going, you know, instead of just staying in one place. Like if the fish aren't there, he just moves out and goes, you know, which I really appreciate. He doesn't waste his time thinking, you know, I think a lot of not a lot, but some captains will they're kind of just let you fish, even though there's not fish around and nothing's happening. I mean, if you drop down and there's not fish there, like he's gone. Like 3 minutes, he's like wind him in, and we take off. But yeah, it was cool. So, anyways, I caught uh I got like a 90 pound fish, and I caught it on a 50 pound test. My jigging setup, so I used the Taipan slow pitch rod, the heavier one, his 600 gram, the one that Simon makes, and yeah, which is 50 pound test. It was funny because I was reeling it in, and my drag just like was not tight enough. I had the O'Shea jigger. This thing right here. Of course, I had the ogre on, not this one, but yeah, just 50 pound test on that thing, and got it in pretty quick. It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty hilarious when the deckhands, because my drag wasn't that tight. It was kind of pulling, and so he buttoned it down, and he looks at me and goes, "What pound test do you have on this thing?" And I was like, 50 pounds. Oh my god, Kevin was laughing. Like the look this deckhand gave me, like the look on his face when he looked back, like what are you thinking with 50 pound test? The usual stuff, you know, when you're fishing this. I didn't want to go into the whole you know, and I'm fishing light line because I don't want to be scoped out. I'm using, you know, without getting into all that. But it's like kind of like we were talking about last time. Last trip I went out on in April, I think I caught. a 50 pounder on 30-pound test. This time I caught like a 90 pounder on 50-pound test. If listen, my drag on this thing's nowhere even near 50 pounds. The leader was heavy as hell. I don't think that really matters. It was just one of those pre-made leaders that I showed you guys last week or the week before. So that leader was like 100 pounds, but I mean, leader doesn't really matter too much. He was really concerned with that, and he asked like what pound leader I had, and I couldn't even remember. I was like, I don't remember it. It was 100 pounds, so it was fine. But he was saying he was like, oh yeah, you're. I don't understand this logic that they're. And this isn't a slide on the deckhands. The deckhands were great, but he was saying like, oh, you get chewed off on if you're not using anything above 80 pounds, you're not getting chewed off. But it's like I'm using a jig, like they're not going to chew. Nothing's going to get chewed off on the line. I understand like abrasion, lines rubbing on each other when there's chaos. The thinner your line, you do risk a lot of trouble. But I know we talked about this last week. If this reel can't even get anywhere close to 50 pounds of drag, like what do you? And we tighten this thing down. The drag, like he cranked, it was cranked to the max, like completely down, and it held up fine. I mean, I think maybe a 15-20 minute fight, it got it in decent. The slow pitch rod, Simon's rod, I mean, that thing was like tacoed over, but realistically, it was a pretty decent sized good fish, and we got it in a decent amount of time. Um, a little undergunned, but not like, not severely, but just that whole concept of using the light line to get down fast. And one thing was interesting too was when we got on it was so windy, and it was like there was so much current, like it was pretty choppy weather, and the captain says don't throw anything lighter than a 400 gram. Luckily I brought most people on the crew with 600-gram jigs, so we were pretty well prepared, but there was a lot of people slaying them on the ogre. I know Corey in here, he got one. One of the younger kids got two on the ogre, so not everybody had caught bluefin, but there was a lot caught on the ogre. And because the wind and the current was just so crazy, if you didn't have the 600-gram jigs, you'd have been in trouble. And he was straight up like, don't throw anything less than 400. And I don't think a lot of people had. A lot of people still run like those 200-300, and stuff like that works under calm conditions. But man, it was wild out there. Like somebody was saying that the yellowtail shootout was at SoCal Steve. Yeah, man, it was rough. I mean, there was white caps everywhere. Wind was crazy. I mean, that boat. I didn't realize how rough it was until like we saw some other boats, like the sport boats next to us, and when they're driving and you see their nose like go into the wave and it's like just getting eaten. I was like, this is actually pretty big weather out here. I didn't think about it, but even with a 600-gram and the light line, I was still scoping out like crazy. By the time you hit like 300 feet, you had to drop another 200 feet because we were so far out. But yeah, man, heavy jigs, light line for the win. Got it done. I love it when a plan comes together, and watching the panic on the deckhand's face when they realize you don't have anything less than 100. He was like, nothing less than 80 pounds at night. I fished that thing all night. Like it was good. That's how we do it, living on the edge. Yeah, I don't understand the concept of the super heavy line. Like I get it, they can't really see it, so you might as well go overkill. But if you're dropping a jig that deep and it's that windy, I think you're hurting yourself, just scoping out the line so much. And that's just my opinion. I mean, these dudes slay. The heavy stuff works too, but I'm gonna be too worried about it. Just felt like the bite may have caused other stress that would. Oh yeah, we're talking about the marlin. Yeah, you guys are right. That's a good point. You guys are all, I think, right on the money. Yeah, I think right. Yeah, they probably lost or paid the 20K to enter. I think you would have to have that much money into the pot. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, Cody. So could I. I could stock up for another 10 years. I could buy 10 years of inventory with that. Living in Arizona, I missed the SDA. Yeah, Benji, how's the fishing out there? You been fishing for stripers yet? Or tell me what the water's like out there, because I've heard, because you're in Bullhead, right? And I know Lake Mead is the lake that they pull the water from. And somebody was saying that they went up to Laughlin, and my dad lives in Bullhead too, but apparently like the lake is is low, so they don't bring the river up until like later in the day. They say it wasn't until like 3 p.m. Those of you guys that don't know, they actually open the dam, and that's what feeds the river that runs through Laughlin and Bullhead. And ultimately, that goes down into Havasu and everything else. But it's actually controlled, so they open it different times, different days, different years. It's always different. Controls the current, the flow, and how much there is. But it's my understanding they didn't open it until later. Years past, when I've gone out there, I said my dad lives out there. My family used to always go to Laughlin, my extended family on vacation and stuff. Um, they'd usually, I mean, this was like years ago. They'd open it pretty early. You know, you go down there 9 o'clock or so, and it was already flowing. It was funny because people would, what would happen is people would go down there and they'd put all their stuff, like their coolers, and all their food and their chairs. They'd put them way down because they'd get there early at like 6 in the morning to like save their spot or whatever. So they'd have like tents. They'd put everything down there. Well, then they'd leave. So they'd be like, oh, because it would get crazy. It's like the beach here. So they put all their junk down, and then they'd leave thinking their spot was going to be saved. They'd come back and just washed away because by the time the river rose and they came back, they didn't realize that like the river came up, or you'd see like remnants of stuff, or you would just see like coolers going down the water. It was kind of sad, but funny at the same time. I flew a little too close to the sun. Paige D. Niger. Oh my! I don't even want to talk about this. This breaks my heart. Simon hooked up during the daytime. Yeah, that's true. Damn it, Simon. So Simon from Taipan Rods. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what kind of knots you guys are tying out there in Yuma. Simon was like, he did hook up on a jig, so I give him one of the 80-gram ogres because you want to fish a smaller jig. This is the 80-gram. I put a treble on this. They don't come with the treble, and I think it's the one I gave him. I think even he had the rainbow roll. So during the day when the fish were close to the boat, he had the 80-gram, and he goes, "Yeah, let me tie it on." So I gave it to him. Simon gets hooked up, and his reel just took off. It was like, zzz. He took for right, and then it just like it snapped off, and it snapped where he tied his. I guess he tied wherever he tied the braid to the mono broke. So I was blaming Kevin. I was like, "Oh, did Kevin tie that knot?" And then he finally admitted he tied the knot. So don't let anybody from Yuma tie your knot if you're tuna fishing. I think they don't know how to tie knots for bass. Broke my heart, Simon. Not only because you lost the jig, watching anybody lose bluefin is hard, especially those big ones, man. It's too bad. I'm just messing with you. We brought plenty of jigs. Thanks for opening that wound page. Yeah, where's Simon? We need to talk smack on him. If you put 65-pound test, your fish would have been over 100 pounds. Yeah. Yeah, probably, right? I could have got that. If it was 100 pounds, no problem on that 50-pound. Arnie, what's up? What's going on? Welcome to the show. Let's see. Yeah, weather sucked. 25 foot. CC was trying to hide from the weather up at the North Island. Yeah, man, it was rough. And we were on a big boat too, so when we were on a big sport boat, we were still getting just beat up. Usual seasickness. For actually not too many people got seasick. So I was surprised. People were patched up. They had the bonine, Dramamine. They're pretty much ready to go. Did you get bit on the drop or the pump? All of ours were on the drop. Yeah, mine was on the drop for sure. I just torpedoed it down and, you know, dropped it, slacked out. It's just like we talk about. It looked like I hit bottom. Just put it in gear and just crank like a madman. And sure enough, I was on. Yeah, so most of the bites were definitely on the fall for sure. A 14-year-old caught a yellowfin and a bluefin. Did great. Yeah. Yeah, that was cool, man. He caught some big fish. That was awesome. Ultralight tuna fishing. Oh, dude. Those deckhands, they were not pleased. I wasn't even ultralight. Like, this isn't even super light gear. It's plenty heavy for what we were doing. Sleeping in a tent overnight on the shore on the river, had to move in the middle of the night because the water level was about to wash me away. Yeah, you've experienced it. That's funny. It's like a tide, but you wouldn't think about it. It's like an artificial tie, you know? The John's calling knot. I don't know what kind of knot he tied. I think it was the I don't even know. He said it was the Albright, but then I said, "What kind of knot did you tie?" And he was said, "I don't know." And then I guess it was it the Albright, and he said, "Yeah." And he said it was, I think, the Alberto thing. I was like, "Oh no." I think Kevin tied. I think after that, I saw Kevin tying a knot for him, so that was funny. Good King says, Mudo, I've been watching your videos and seeing you fish the 40 and 60 gram sumos and assassins. I see you casting them out and using a retrieve and stop technique. Can you tell us about that? I always assumed you fished them vertical, but you were wearing them out. Yeah, it's the same concept with so they will eat it on the swim as well. But basically, when I cast it, I know which video you're talking about. Well, I would cast on a patty. But when I was casting near a patty, basically I don't reel in it immediately. I just let it fall. So basically you are vertical fishing. But we know the fish they're right under the patty. They're shallow, right? 0 to probably 50 feet maybe is where all the chaos is, maybe 100 feet. So what I'll do is I'll cast it and I'll free spool it. So once it hits the water, I'll put it in gear, but then I free spool. And basically it is vertical fishing because it's going to fall. And a lot of times that's when I was getting bit. So even though I was casting, and then what I would do is retrieve. Every now and then you do get bit on the retrieve. So they do bite it. The assassin actually and the sumo, they have a good kick to it, a good wobble. Even the ogre does. But I'll retrieve, but then I'll stop again. So I'll let it flutter. I'll count to like 5, maybe 10. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually I'll count to 5. Then I'll put it in gear and I'll reel it up fast to bring it back to the top. And then I put it in gear again so I can let it fall. 1, then I'll count again. 1, 2, and they always bite it on the fall. So it is still vertical fishing. It's just a different way of doing it. I know that they're in the water column really, really high. So once I bring it up, I'll just drop it again, and then I'll reel it up again and drop it again, and they will bite it on the drop. Because what happens is you put it in gear and you go to reel it to bring it to the top, and you realize you got bit. It's hard because a lot of times you don't even know that you caught a fish because they eat it, and when you're free spooled, they'll like swim away with it. But then once you put it in gear, you realize that you're hooked up. So essentially, it's a mix of vertical, but we were getting bit on the retrieve too. So if you retrieve really fast, they'll come and get it. But it is the pause where I would say 80% of the bites would come. But essentially, it's the same. It's the same concept. I cast it out, and it's going to do its thing and flutter. But then I'll reel it just to bring it back up to the surface, and then hit the brake. So that's why you'll see me pausing. I'll stop every couple cranks just so I can get the vertical flutter again, and that's when they bite it. So really, it's the same concept, but you're just able to cover more ground with it instead of going just vertical and dropping it vertical. If you're right up in the patty or they're around the boat, that works too. I've tossed it out 2 feet from the boat and they get bit and they smoke it. But yeah, if you want to cast on a patty, same concept. It's just a different way of doing it, but the principle is really the same, getting it horizontal. So I hope that answered your question. So technically we still are vertical fishing it, just kind of a different technique. The coulda, shoulda, not. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Don't let those deckhands intimidate you. Yeah. It don't matter. They always do. We always land the fish, and then they usually don't say much afterwards. Yeah, whatever the captain says, though, we definitely do what they say. Because he did. That's why I had the 200. So later in the night, he did recommend that we switch to the lighter jigs. That's why I have the. So I had the 220 gram on the same rod because they were actually. This was still I was using at night, but I switched out because they were coming a little closer to the surface. Earlier in the night, they were like 300 400 feet deep, but then they did come up to like that 150 to 200 range, and he recommended going with the lighter stuff for sure. Ironfish Oos, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Welcome as always. All right, guys. Oh yeah, so anyways, we wanted to get into. Graham had a question because he wanted me to address something real quick. This is actually a good topic. Let's see if I can bring it up here real quick. He was saying Let's see, sliding up in my DMs here. It's a question for the show. These bigger bluefin tuna around. Can you explain to someone who may not know that there's a difference between a low profile reel and a conventional reel as far as the drag, even though the specs say that they have the same drag rating? I've seen Alexa get smoked by a bluefin tuna, and a guy thought he'd be okay because he said it had 25-pound drag. Yeah, and I talked about this a couple shows ago, so we'll hit on it real quick. Is you don't want to be undergunned when it comes to reels, and what he's talking about is a lot of times you have these bait casters. This is a Pen Fathom bait caster. This is the 400 size. This is the biggest one they make. Now, the drag on this thing is, I don't remember what it is, but I think it's like 30 pounds, which is like the same as some of these Pen Fathoms. So people think, okay, I've got 30 pounds of drag, therefore I should be able to, like, so if this has 30 pounds of drag and there goes my rod, and this Pen Fathom 40 has 30 pounds of drag, that I should be okay. You know, that's knocking all kinds of shit over here. So a lot of people they assume that just because it has the same amount of drag that you can catch the same size fish on the thing. And I've explained this before, that the problem is the size of the drag and the basically the space that you have on here is not the same. So the surface area is probably a quarter of the size on this reel as it is on one of these big reels. So what happens is the disc heats up way faster and there's not as much surface area. So even though you can pull on them initially and you yank on them, the drag will be the same. When you pull on this bait caster and you pull on this lever reel, you're going to be like, okay, the drag is 30 pounds, but that 30 pounds is only going to last for a couple minutes or maybe even a few seconds on the smaller one. Because once the surface area is so small on this bait caster that it's going to heat up. And once it heats up, and because of the smaller surface area, it no longer has 30 pounds of drag. So you're essentially almost, and then once it heats up too much, you have zero drag. Or you have drag, but it's not nearly as much. So this drag is going to go from 30 to 15 to 10 pounds really quick, just based on the heat. I don't know if you guys have ever, like, just take a sports car, for example. If you took a Corvette that has big tires on the back because they need the surface area and it has big brakes, if you put little tiny tires on that thing, it's not going to go as fast and it's not going to handle as well, even though it's on the same car with the same amount of power, because the wheels are going to spin and there's not enough surface area to maximize it to catch on the gravel or the asphalt. So as those bigger tires turn, you need the bigger tires to grab and propel to use the power. Sort of the same thing on here. The bigger reel, even though it's the same horsepower you think on paper, the actual size and the surface area of the carbon fiber drag is what makes the difference, because the bigger space means it'll cool down faster, it heats up less, and it's bigger, so it'll grip more than the smaller one. So I hope that makes sense. It's like on this thing, the star drag, the drag is just on that little orange part behind the star, behind the handle. That's where the drag is. It's a little disc, probably like that. Your 30 pounds of drag. Where on this is a lever drag. Basically, this whole side plate, not this crank, but this whole side plate, basically on the other side, is the drag. So when you see the difference, even though these actually have extremely similar drags, the surface area on this one is so much larger that you'll have 30 pounds on this a lot longer than you're going to have 30 pounds on that one. So once that heats up, and even when they do heat up, even when the big one heats up at max temp, it's going to cool down a lot quicker because of the larger surface area. And that smaller one stays hot, like that's it. Now, if you guys have ever ridden the brakes on a car, like down a hill, I grew up in the mountains and I had a pretty shitty car. I remember I had to ride the brakes one time and I was going down and I was lightly riding them, and then I went to stop and I had to stop and the car almost didn't stop. And I had to it was scary. I had to stand up on the brake pedal because they got so hot, they lost all friction. So once you lose friction, you're done. So it's more of a physics thing than a numbers thing. So don't just look at the number. You have to actually see the thing. And it's not only that, cranking power with the reel. You look at the gear on this thing. It's harder to crank. It's harder to turn. Big handles, big gears. They're easier to turn to bring the fish in faster. Retrieve rates are different. Typically, the retrieval rate is bigger on the bigger reels, which also help fighting the fish. This one is 34 inches per crank. So that means every time I turn this handle, I retrieve 34 inches with a smaller drag. This one that I caught the bluefin with, and this one is a star drag too, but even still, this one has a pretty substantial size drag. And this is what I caught that about a 90-pound fish on. You can see that drag's a lot bigger, even though it's a star drag. But this bad boy has, I think, like it's over 40. I think this thing has like 42 or 45 inches per retrieve. So it's almost 10. Each crank on this one retrieves 10 inches more than the small one. So you think every crank you're getting almost a foot more. That's also plays a big thing into getting the fish. So, and the drags on that bait caster and that Shimano O'Shea jigger are very similar, but you'll get it in way faster on that Shimano than you will with that, just based on the size. So don't be deceived by the drag, guys. That's why you do need a bigger setup. Don't just be like, oh, those little reels got enough drag, it's going to horse it in. Like some of those Akuma Komodos, they boast like really heavy drags. I mean, that's fine, but that's not going to land you a bluefin. Smaller yellowtail, yellowfin, dorado, stuff like that, no problem. But when you're fishing big bluefin, you're gonna get worked for sure. So Graham, thank you for the question. Hopefully that clarifies. I really appreciate it. Missing Cali? Does that mean you haven't been fishing? Come on, man. I want to see those stripers, man. Drag surface area. Brakes on a Corolla versus brakes on an F350. Yeah, 100%. I look at it like, even if you took the same truck. So if you took that F350 and you put the Corolla size brakes on it, which one would you rather have? Yeah. Even on the same size tires and everything, you'd be like, no, I want the bigger brakes. 100%. Brake fade is real. It's the same thing. Drag fade. And we almost never hear it talked about, but ask Dave Rage about it. He caught on our trip last year. He caught a pretty big, like 40-pound yellowtail, and he had I think like a 300 size bait caster, and he was getting to the point where that reel was starting to fade on him for sure. It took him a little longer than it should have to bring that thing in. Eventually he got it, but yeah, he felt the pain. That was pretty funny. What is your rod rated? It's a 600-gram jig rod. This one, it doesn't actually have the line. This is a custom built. This is one of the Taipan 600 grams slow pitch jigging rods. I think you can run probably 65-pound. I'd say it's probably the max on that thing. We don't really have any official ratings on it. This one's kind of like a proto. That's more of a final one. That's like this is the second one he's built, and I think he's doing some of these in production, but nothing's written on there. It's rated basically like 400 gram to 600 gram jigs, and I'd say it's probably 30 to 65-pound rating on that thing. Based on my usage, that's what I'd put it at. But it pulled on that fish, man. It pulled on that big fish. And it was turning, man. That thing was like tacoed over, but it still had power. It still had a lot of power. It was pretty impressive. I was very, very surprised with it. Heat equals weak drag pressure. Yeah, 100%. Nice. Yeah, prototype sample rod. Exactly. They are in production though, so you can this is called the low pitch rod, and you can find them. I think Dana's got some, so some of them are in stores now. But yeah, this is all my slow pitch rods are the Taipan prototypes. So some of them like look different, or they have guides in different places. Or this one is like he custom made for me because I had the handle. I had one, so we changed the handle a little further back. We added more space for the rail part. It's actually like a rail rod, so it's a railable slow pitch rod was the whole idea. So this one I think we've kind of got perfected. I didn't even need to rail the fish, so that was how well it worked. if you guys need to know. But hit up Simon with Taipan. He'll hook you guys up. Let's see here. What else we got? The announcements. Man, I waited till almost the end of the show for this. So you guys got some good news, got some bad news. The good news is Submission at Sea is happening. Tickets are on sale now. Submissionfishing.com. Some of you guys got the email, so we sent it out on the email a couple days ago. And I know we've already been selling some tickets, so some of you guys are already in the know. If you guys aren't part of our email list, check it out because we do like some sales and stuff like that. Or we let you guys know when there's stuff in stock. So if you guys are asking like when certain jigs are in, when we update the inventory, we usually let you guys know. But we're going August 5th. Now, the bad thing is that's when the pickle run is happening. And Brian let me know that. We were texting a couple days ago and he was like, man, it's during the pickle run. I didn't even think about that because we just kind of finalized the date. One of the reasons is it was we were kind of down between August and then he had stuff again in late September. But for those of you guys that know, August, that early August, it's like honestly some of the best fishing you can get offshore. So it's a full day. We're going to be on the Malahini. Same thing. We asked for your shirt size. We're going to do the custom shirts, custom sun shirts. Taipan Rods are going to sponsor it this time, or we're going to have some other sponsors. So Taipan, Simon's going to make a rod that we're going to give away. So I don't know if it'll be the heavy one or one of the lighter ones, but we'll change it up a little bit. So it'll be kind of a one-off custom built Taipan slow pitch rod that'll be pretty badass. So we'll give that away. Every ticket comes with a raffle ticket, and then you can buy more if you guys want. We're gonna have some more sponsors coming on board too, more than we even had last year. So we'll have lots of stuff to give away. We'll have an actual Taipan rod this time. Simon will be on the trip too. So if you guys want to ask him questions, pick his brain, he can make you custom rods, all that good stuff. Same thing will be on the Malahini for a full day trip. But early August, man, this is like we kind of missed it last year. We were going to go for like the dodos and stuff, but we were a little late to the party. So this time, we're going to be right in there, basically almost a month from now. And historically, fishing is really good in August. So it's August 5th on a Saturday. Tickets are available. They're $325. Almost a little more than last year. The boats are more expensive. The diesel prices ain't cheap, so it's $325. Meals included. Like I said, you get shirts. We'll have raffles. Jigs are included, so I'll give you some jigs. Yeah, it was a great time. We had a lot of fun last year, and we're gonna get on them. Captain Bill recommends that you do have a passport if you have one. We'll see what happens. If enough of you guys don't have passports, we'll just have to go offshore. I think we can go offshore. Probably looking for patties that time of year, but he would recommend passports just because we don't know. Like if we want to go to the islands, it's always easier. But if enough of you guys are like, hey, I don't have a passport, I mean, I'll just tell them we don't have passports and whatever. We'll just have to go offshore and do it. So, he'd like to have them, but if you don't have them, it's not a big deal. So it's happening again. Still looking into the half day thing. I don't know, but a lot of you guys would rather do a 3/4 day. This is a full day, so we still may do one of the other ones, the smaller trips, but I definitely wanted to get this on the books. A lot of you guys were asking for that thing. So if you guys want to fish, man, fish together, fish with this group of guys. It's a lot of fun. It's a blast. We got on the yellowtail last year, and it was some pretty good fishing. It was slow as a grind, and then we got on them. So a lot of people hooked up, and we had some good fish. But I was late in the year too, so this is more than a month ahead. This is like last year in the beginning of August was when everything was just nuts. So we got a really good time. That's why I really had to pick this date. I don't know if we had a cancellation or something. So we were able to slide in on this day and get this charter. So I think the fishing time gets better than this, and I'm really excited for it. So guys, check it out. Submissionfishing.com if you want to buy your tickets. There's a submission at C tab. I wanted to give you guys the first rights to it. So if you watch the show, you guys got first opportunity. I'll let it go usually like a couple days like I did last year, and then I'll start posting on Instagram to fill all the other spots. Spots are limited. It's less than 30 spots. So, and we've already had quite a bit of people bought them from the email list. So spots are definitely limited. So if you want to get on there, guys, don't wait. Definitely hop on. But it was a super trip. It's great fishing with you guys. Captain Bill's awesome, and yeah, should be super fun. Submission at Sea 2023. It's happening. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us. Yeah, if you guys also I know Cameron from BD Outdoors texted me too. If you guys are looking for a speaking of trips, he's got like a kids trip. It's like I think kids and parents. So if you guys have, let me see if I could pull up his text here. Cameron, there he was. You're saying he's got a 3/4 day rockfish charter going on the Pacifica, and they're calling it the kids charter. He's not sure how many kids will come because school's starting, but if you guys want to get in on that, I think you guys can check out BD. And yeah, that one's 205. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. That one's August 16th, so it's a couple weeks after the one we're doing. I may or may not be on that one if I sponsor it. I'm not sure. So that's kind of up in the air, but it is cool. Like, so it's more of like a kids oriented one. So if you got kids that want to go on the Pacifica, check that out. It's kind of like an all day 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So pretty long day. That one's primarily rock fishing, but just want to throw that out. I told Cameron to let you guys know, and that if I sponsor it, I'll let you guys know too. So far we do have Taipan on our trip. I know I'd mentioned that, but let's see. Maybe back to back half days or charter the boat for the whole day. Fred on the daily double. Yeah, I think I looked at the daily double. Yeah, I'm still open for a for half day for sure. I know a lot of you guys wanted to go on that. Salty, try to make adjustments on the pickle run. Yeah, guys, I know I'm so sorry about that too. Like I didn't even cross my mind, and then the dates just ran. It'd be cool if we could pitch the like if you can push the pickle run. I'd like to because I'd like to do the pickle run too for sure. But I like to have you guys on there. It was just bad timing all around. So if you guys, I understand if you'd rather do the pickle run, no hard feelings. I understand it was. For those of you guys that don't know, the pickle run is where the last couple of years we've gone from Mission Bay and we kayak. Last year I was on my boat, but the year before that I kayaked. We went from Mission Bay and we go all the way offshore, and then we go down, follow the peninsula all the way into San Diego. We hop in each other's cars. We transport the kayaks back and forth. It's a long day. It's a long trip. It's a lot of miles, but yeah, it's fun. And usually we fish that kelp line the whole way down, hit the pipe, and it's a blast. So if you can't make the if you can't make submission at sea, there is the pickle run available because you know that doesn't cost you anything. But if you guys can push the pickle run back, I'd definitely be on that pickle run for sure. Those Taipan rods are sexy. Use the rail rod. Yeah, a lot of you guys were working those like the legit rail rods. Those things are crazy. They're no joke. Yeah, man. Benji went last year. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. See, there you go, Salty. Submission at sea. Got to do it. How about we should push the pickle run back like a week or up a week. How about that? Then we can all do both. I know. I feel like I threw a wrench in the whole thing, guys. I do apologize for that. I don't want to take away. But Salty, you got to get your pelagic, man. You got to get that yellow. I personally think it'd probably be more Dorado and yellowfin at that point. In August, like last year, that's when they were just popping off, and they were like really within range too. So I'm hoping nobody knows it's fishing, but if it's anything like last year and the year before, a lot of those like Dorado and yellowfin were within really pretty close. Day range was like no problem. I'd like to limit out on those things. It's super fun, and that's the goal. Oh, Captain Ed, yeah, I'm screwing everybody up. Here you go, Benji. Heck yeah, do it. Into SD airport. There you go. Yeah, I do. I always fly from Vegas to SD. That's the way to do it. Let's see here if I had anything else. Eric the Judge Lehman had a question. He said, "How could you let Kevin date your sister?" Hey, what can I say, man? It could be worse. At least he's somebody I know, right? So I know where he lives. I know how to get a hold of him. It's a safer bet. I think letting somebody date your sister than somebody you don't know. That way you can keep an eye on them. I'm watching them all the time. Patty hopping. Yeah, I'm hoping. That's right in that time. I think that's patty hopping time right there. The fishing this year has been delayed. Will be interesting to see how summer shapes. Yeah, 100%. It's interesting you say that, Salty, because I was looking at, you know how like your feed comes up, um, and we've been hearing about this El Nino supposed to be pushing this warm weather up, and this I got some like the cloud. My OneDrive tells me like, oh, what happened last year? So on this day last year, apparently me and Kevin were out looking for bluefin right off of Oceanside. So that was right here at late June. So it definitely is a little delayed. Even though the tuna are coming up, and I think it's starting to happen because day boats are limiting out. The San Diego, which is only a day boat, only has day range. They limited out on bluefin, I think today and yesterday. So they're getting them. They're definitely moving up. But yeah, last year they were already like pushing up into Oceanside and Dana Point, and they were close. Like they were literally less than 10 miles off of the coast. So we were running up and down there last year because my memory feed came up. So we are a little delayed, which is okay because usually July is when they start showing up. So we're right there at the beginning of August. I hoping we're getting that sweet spot too. And one of the things about the Dorado is you want to get them, especially with the yellowfin too, is get them when they're hungry and when they're first coming in. Because when they travel and when they're hungry and they eat, that's when they just eat anything and you can catch them like crazy. Later in the year, they were problematic because they were already fat, they were already fed. Me and Graham went out. I took him out on my boat and we launched out at Dana Point, and we found them, but they just didn't like. They were jumping out of the water like right next to my boat. We found them on patties, straight up swimming under the boat, left and right. They just would not eat. Nobody was catching. There was boats around, and nobody was catching them because it was late in the season, and they were fed. They weren't really migrating. They were just kind of hanging out. So catching them kind of when they're coming up, when they're chasing the bait, when they're feeding and hungry, that's when you want to find them. Early in that season, they're starving and they eat anything. That's when it's just like it's wide open and super fun. That's the goal. That's kind of why I went with this August trip instead of late. The only other time we had it was late September, but I didn't want to push it back again. Once I saw that early August, I was like, I'd wish we kind of got on that last year. Even though last year was a lot of fun because we did get those yellowtail, but um, I'm hoping for a patty day. He sets the plan. 7 miles off of San Onofre. Yeah, yeah. I think we even went out on this similar times. Yeah, they were just freaking right there. It's so frustrating too. Even the bluefin were kind of up that close. Me and Kevin found them last year. Man, we found foamers of bluefin this time last year. Just yeah, literally 7 miles off of San Onofre, just like we were talking about. And yeah, even that bite was a little finicky. Some people were still catching them though. Move pickle run up a week to 719. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm screwing all you guys over, but if you do push it, I'll go on the. I do want to do the pickle run too, so I'll definitely down for the pickle run. But I'd love to have as many people on the submission at sea as well. So we'll figure it out. If not, we'll have to choose one or the other. That's the day of the spot. Oh man, see what happened last year. I think didn't I have something planned for Spotty Bowl Party last year too? It seemed like we were like stepping on everybody's toes left and right. Yeah, we might not have a solution. I mean, we'll have to see. I do appreciate you guys trying to figure it out, but it is what it is. I mean, it's we can't always have it perfect. You know what I'm saying? That's fishing. Taipan rods. Ooh, Simon, we're just talking about how you're gonna make a rod for everybody on board the submission at sea. I'm joking. You don't have to have a heart attack. I'm going no passport. Yeah, if like not enough people have it, I'll just have to tell. I don't. Um, Bill was like, Captain Bill was like, yeah, see if they got passports, but I think too many people don't have passports, so it is what it is, guys. If we don't have the passports, I'll just tell them we don't have passports, and we'll just be forced to go off. I don't think it'll be as necessary as last year. Um, like I said, because the Dorado were already like way too deep last year. But I think if we get there in August, we should be hopefully okay. Yeah, man, just small rods. All right, guys. Yeah, if you have any more questions, let me know. Yeah, the Bluefin are out, guys. So if you want to get on them, go get on a boat. Go check them out if you got the means. Hopefully, they're coming up sooner. Submission at Sea, August 5th, $325. Jigs, shirts, raffles, the whole thing. Should be fun. Simon's going to join us. A lot of you guys are too. So it should be a blast. If not, you got the pickle run. Unless that gets moved, we'll see. Kind of in a holding pattern on that. Yeah. If you guys move it, I'll do it on the kayak again. I liked it on the kayak. It was fun. If we can find a different time, I'll kayak it for sure. I'll kayak it with you guys. I'll put my lower back on the 3-day rest afterwards. All right, guys. Great being back. Thanks for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram. Congratulations, Spotty or Salty, on the Spotty Bowl tournament. So you got first place. Super awesome. All you guys Spotty Bowl competitors. I think there's still, is that it? Or is there still any days open? I'm not really sure. I'll have to double check. But anybody that competed, submission fishing prizes, those are going to be given away. So if you entered fish in there, we'll see who won. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the award ceremony for the Spotty Bowl. So I'll see you guys there too. Good stuff. Lots of stuff going on in the community. And just stay connected, guys, so we could all see each other and fish together, and it should all be fun. But anyways, guys, nice seeing you. Sorry I missed last week. We'll see you again next week. See you guys on the water. Be safe out there. It is 4th of July. It's going to be chaos. The weather is good, though. So that is that consolation. I mean, the weather's pretty much perfect. There's no wind. Swell looks good. So if you can get out, but just be safe. It's going to be pretty crazy. All right, guys. Until next time. Oos.